You're listening to the Sex and Psychology Podcast, the sex ed you never got in school and won't get anywhere else. I am your host, Dr. Justin Lehmiller. I am a social psychologist and research fellow at the Kinsey Institute and author of the book, Tell Me What You Want, The Science of Sexual Desire and How It Can Help You Improve Your Sex Life. Talking about sex is one of the hardest things for people to do. I hear this all the time. People want to communicate better with their partners about desires, boundaries, fantasies, or even just what feels good. But when the moment comes, the conversation just feels too high stakes, too awkward, too vulnerable. So instead of talking about sex, many of us just don't even go there. And yet there's one place where sex gets talked about openly, unapologetically, and in front of a room full of strangers: the comedy club. Stand-up comics regularly tackle topics that most of us struggle to even bring up in private, from dating disasters to performance anxiety to body insecurities and STIs. And somehow, instead of shutting down, audiences lean in and laugh. So this got me thinking, what is it about sex that makes it comedy gold? And just as importantly, when does a sex joke cross the line from opening up conversation to reinforcing shame? That's what we're going to be exploring today. My guest is Jenny Zagrino. You've seen her on late night television, in film and streaming specials, and lighting up social media with bits that are bold, self-aware, and sharply observant. Jenny dives headfirst into topics like dating, gender expectations, and the messy realities of sex and relationships. You can see her in the new show Crowd Control on Dropout TV, and her most recent Don't Tell comedy special is out now. In this conversation, we're talking about why sex is so funny, how comedians read the room when they're navigating taboo topics, and the tightrope between normalizing sex and reinforcing stigma accidentally. Because laughter can liberate us, but it can also reveal where we're still uncomfortable. This is going to be a fascinating and fun episode that you won't want to miss. Stick around, and we're going to jump in right after the break. Are you curious about sex and psychology in other countries? Join me and Sexual Health Alliance as we expand your knowledge through their study abroad programs. We'll explore different cultures, engage in immersive learning experiences, and collaborate with international experts while traveling to amazing places and having fun with students from all around the world. Since 2015, Sexual Health Alliance has remained at the forefront of sexuality education. Join me and Shaw and a global community of students for a transformative study abroad adventure. Our 2026 study abroad offerings include courses in Paris and Amsterdam. Check them out and learn more at sexualhealthalliance.com. Come meet fantastic people and be at the leading edge of sexual health education with Sexual Health Alliance. Spots for 2026 are available now. Visit sexualhealthalliance.com to secure yours today and embark on an exciting global adventure to study sex and psychology with me. Hi, Jenny, and welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's wonderful to have you here. So this is a slightly unusual episode for me because I'm usually interviewing academics and therapists, not comedians, but I've actually really wanted to have a stand-up comic on the show for a long time. And what inspired it was that there was this new comedy club that opened near us, and we went a few times, and I heard a ton of sex jokes. And it just got me thinking about how I get tons and tons of questions from people regarding how to talk about sex with their partners. They don't know how to do it, so they just don't talk about it. It feels too awkward and uncomfortable. But in a comedy club, suddenly conversations about sex are totally normalized. There's this radical vulnerability and everyone can laugh about it. And it made me wonder whether there's something that we can learn from the world of stand-up about how to become better communicators about sex. So I'm really looking forward to speaking with you about this. But to get us started, I wanted to ask, why do you think that sex is such reliable comedy gold? What is it about sex that makes it impossible for comedians to ignore?
It is so easy to talk about, and the first thing people talk about because it is so shocking. All of us do it. All of us want it. It's like the most base instinct, and none of us will talk about it. So I think that there is so much gold there as a comedian because you have to find ways to talk about certain things. You're more open with your sexuality and what you like, and you're being out there and open, and it shocks people, and some people relate, and it's a whole world. I mean, it's a whole, you know what I mean? But it's a whole world, a massive world. Like sex is such a massive world to talk about, but it's the one that we don't want anyone to know that we're going to. We don't want anyone to know that we're in that world. We've never been in that world. Are you crazy? I've never had sex,
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. And I think you're right. Like, sex is this great equalizer. Like, I mean, for the vast majority of people, it's something that they want and that they have done or would like to be doing. But it's something that we feel so much shame and have so much baggage around. And so, yeah, there certainly is a shock factor element to it because it's like, whoa, here's this person talking about sex. And no one in my life normally talks about this topic. So I get where it works on that level, but also the relatability because it is such a common experience and that other people can often relate to those perspectives, those stories, and things that you're sharing.
Yeah. And I think the world of it, it's not just sex, it's dating, it's marriage, it's relationship, it's trying to get to the first part of sex, it's trying to end sex. It's like there's so many parts to it that are just so rife for comedy mining.
And I think too, it normalizes struggles, because in popular media, we often see these overly idealized representations of sex and relationships, and we try to measure ourselves up to them and think that our sex life, our relationship is supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to look like this thing that we see on screen. And then you have a stand-up comic who comes in and talks about how things don't look like that at all in their life. I think that also is just very normalizing, and people relate to it on that level that like, hey, things don't always go perfectly and we can laugh about it and that's okay.
Yeah, I think that, the more vulnerable, the more relatable, the better the experience, which is also how sex is.
In my work, which is obviously very different. Now, I do actually have aspirations to try stand-up comedy at some point. I know. And I've got a whole list on my phone about what my bits are going to be. And maybe one day I'll get up the courage to try it. And it's not that I think I'm going to be good at it. It's just I got stories to tell. But I've started infusing some of that into my own work that I do as a sex educator, because I think having that vulnerability, that relatability, no matter what it is, whether it's in comedy or it's in writing or podcasting, having some aspect of yourself that shines through does help people connect with it on a different level. And so for a lot of my career, I tried very much to not put any of myself in the work that I was doing. But I found that as I've gotten a little bit more comfortable trying that, exploring it, experimenting with it, it does seem to connect with people on a different level. And it's a little less clinical, especially when you're talking about how sex works.
Exactly. I think that the thing about stand-up is because the person is there and you see them and they're talking to you about XYZ, the fear and the clinicalness of it, of what sex entails, is taken away. And now it's funny. Now it's silly. The ice is broken. And specifically in my work, I do talk a lot about dating. I'm very open about sex. I'm very open about talking about different things that I like. I'm very silly about it too, which I think disarms it. And also, it's just everyone has these thoughts. So stand up and really putting yourself into it just helps loosen everything up, and it's not so scary anymore.
Yeah, definitely. So from your experience on stage, what separates a sex joke that kills from one that just makes the room tense, right? Can you maybe give us an example?
Well, I'll tell you, because I had an experience. So the ones that work for me are always the ones that are awkward, the ones that are like, this did not go according to plan, humanizing it, because we're so inundated with like porn and the polishedness of sex. And it's also very male gaze. Like I've been trying to write this bit about, you've got Bridgerton, you've got Heated Rivalry, you've got Outlander, you've got all of these female-focused desire, sex, longing. Even though Heated Rivalry is male, women are clamoring. They're going nuts for it. But it is so like more vulnerable and open, and it shows the awkwardness of love, and it shows the silliness and the weird and all this stuff that you don't get in male gaze oriented media. And so that's why people are so in love with it, I think. And so with my comedy, I try so hard to be like, here's the weird stuff. Here's the crazy stuff. The thing that happened recently, and it might just be the audience, I still think it's very funny, is I've been very open about the things that I like, which are the 18th century. Like I'm incredibly, have been since I was like weirdly young. Love the 18th century man. Love a stocking. Love a little wig. Love a bow, And I tried explaining that on stage and everyone was like, who the fuck is this girl? She is so weird. So explaining like the sexiest thing to me is like, what's a real man? A real man wears stockings. They're just like, what is she talking about? She so clearly is horny for like a part of history that I don't understand. Then I'm just like, all right, well, I just told you guys that I'm really turned on by Mozart and Amadeus. So I think I'll just make my way out. That's my fantasy. Uh-oh, now everybody knows and nobody likes it. So that can be weird, but you have to work on it. I don't think any sex joke comes out perfect. You really have to work on them.
Yeah. And I think that that's like a key part of all of this is that, practice makes perfect when it comes to telling the right joke, whether it's about sex or not. But also, two people can tell the same sex joke and it can land very differently. This is also true in the world of sex education. Like I remember back when I was in graduate school and I was assigned to teach my own human sexuality course and it went really well. And I got really great evaluations and ratings. And I had another colleague who was also assigned to teach that class later and had a terrible experience with it. Sex can be such a minefield in the way that you talk about it and what you're doing. Like if you're making eye contact with people when you're talking about certain things.
Yeah. If you're not confident about it, they can tell. They're like, she thinks it's awkward. It must be awkward. So I'm going to pull back. And I think that, one of the keys, just like in the bit that I'm working on and also all of my sex bits is there's a relatability factor that's like, hey, we all have this experience, and people usually do. Or the opposite is the relatability is not the action, but the relatability is of feeling weird, I feel kind of crazy, right? Like maybe people aren't turned on by Tom Hulse and Amadeus, which is fine. But people know what it's like to be turned on by something and not understand why. Mm-hmm. What's the show with the hormone monster?
The Hormone Monster?
Yeah, the cartoon. Damn it. It was Nick Kroll's cartoon on Netflix. I can't think of the name of it. It's like literally one word and I can't think of it. But there is a character who gets turned on by tomatoes. And it's like, it's weird, but I think we've all had that moment where we're just like, why does this turn me on? So you focus in comedy on the why and not the what.
Yeah. And, hey, that's also why I wrote a whole book on sexual fantasies. It was to help people understand that these things that they're turned on by, like you're not the only one who has those interests.
Why am I turned on by 18th century history? Why do I get horny when I listen to Mozart? Please tell me why.
So there could be lots of reasons that are going on there.
And why in my late 30s? Why is this going on in my late 30s?
Well, so I think there's actually something bigger that's happening in our culture right now where a lot of people have been hot for shows like Bridgerton and so forth. I think in part because it harkens back to a time when things around like sex and dating and relationships just seemed a lot simpler than they are today in our modern world with online dating and the exhausting, overwhelming number of options, and also the disappearance of like romance and courtship behavior. And so I think there is something that a lot of people just romanticize about those previous historical periods because it did seem like a time where romance really thrived, where you had to like really court someone in order to gain their attention or favor. And today it's just, you're sending this stupid short text message and it's just not the same.
Hey, girl, what's up? Oh, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, leave me alone. Tell me my heart beats only for you or whatever, Tell me something beautiful and wonderful. That's probably it. Also, I mean, come on. Calves are nice. A nice pair of calves? Come on. Also, I'm sure there's something tied in with the 250th anniversary of America, and we're going through a horrific time in America.
Oh, we all need mental escape right now.
You know what? Let me escape back to the beginning. Let me just fantasize about a world that didn't actually ever exist, but it's fun. So I think that like right now I want to focus on when I'm talking about sex is what is the weirdness of it? You can't put your finger on it, but there's something about whatever it is.
Sex is a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned, practiced, and mastered. Let me explain what I mean by that. For a long time, we've treated sex like it's something that you're either naturally good at or you're not. Like chemistry alone should just carry everything. But nobody expects you to just sit down at a piano and magically know how to play. So why do we expect people to just automatically know how to communicate in the bedroom and how to be a good sexual partner? The truth is that good sex isn't about some natural talent that only some people have. It's about how well you've honed your own bedroom skills. That's where Beducated comes in. They offer more than 150 expert-led online courses on sex and intimacy, everything from improving oral skills to exploring erotic massage, guided self-pleasure, and even kink, all taught by world-class educators. It's educational, it's practical, and yes, it's also hot. What I really love about Beducated is that it replaces sexual myths with real education. So instead of trial and error or relying on what you picked up from pop culture, you're actually learning what works and why from people who truly know this field. So if you're ready to stop putting intimacy on autopilot, click the link in the show notes and take the Beducated quiz to receive your personalized roadmap to sexual happiness. Sex is a skill, and Beducated is where you learn it. So there's this bit that I've seen you do on your Instagram page a few times where you ask men and women in the audience about the scariest thing that could happen on a first date. And you usually start by asking this question first of the guys before you ask some women. So can you walk us through what men usually say and what women usually say when you ask this question?
Yes, men are scared of being embarrassed. That is the scariest thing to them. It is not bodily harm. It is not... They might be murdered. One woman said skinned, which I was like, that's a new one. So, but theirs is, I will be embarrassed. Number one answer, actually, and it makes me sad because I kind of get it. She's not going to like me. Mm. I will be rejected. And that's for them so scary. And then the women are like, he'll rape you. Like, that's terrifying. And then they're like, oh, I guess that could happen. And then the other option that men do maybe it's me being an asshole that I can't take it seriously, but that they're going to get drugged and their organs will be harvested.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's dark.
I've seen that a lot. But they're still not dying. They're still not getting assaulted, They still wake up at the end of this horrific thing. They wake up in a bathtub, Sure, a kidney's gone.
But that's not a common thing. More often than not, like in the videos I've seen where guys are saying things like, oh, I might spill food on myself. And it's like, really? That's the worst thing that can happen to you on a first date?
I had one guy say a girl might fuck him too. Like, he might fuck too well.
Oh.
What if I fuck her so good and I can't get rid of her? Like,
oh, God.
I don't even know what to say.
So I'm curious, like, what inspired that bit, and when you started doing it, did you expect that you were going to get this really stark contrast between what men and women were saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
I knew. It has been discourse online for women for a long time. So that's why I know collectively women are going to say certain things. Because in our world, that does exist, right? When we go on a date, we text our friends the phone number of the guy. Mm-hmm. We text our friends where we're going. We have the Uber follow us and text it to people. We know men, I don't think... And I don't think it's like a cruelty thing. I think it's just not in their world. I know exactly what the women, almost all the women are going to say. Some women don't say that. Some women are, oh, what if his mom shows up? And I'm like, okay.
Really? Is that going to happen? Okay.
Yeah.
There's scarier things that could happen than that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think what's cool about that bit is it really highlights something that we see in the research on the degree to which men and women think about risk when it comes to something like casual sex. And part of the reason why women report lower interest in casual sex is simply because they see greater inherent risk associated with it. And so I think that the bit you do isn't just funny, it's also raising cultural awareness of some important gender differences in a way that hopefully gives people more empathy or at least a different perspective in terms of thinking about it.
No, men are not empathetic at all. Oh, this is bullshit. That's not true. Men are more likely to get assaulted. And I'm like, okay.
Oh, gosh.
Men are, at least online, men are almost never like, oh, wow, I never thought of it like that. They're usually like, I don't know, something worse could happen, da da da. And then, yeah, so it's not really an empathizing bit. You would
Man,
hope.
I was hoping that people were getting something deeper out of this, but maybe
No.
not.
The women are like, yeah, obviously. And the men are like, I don't think that's true.
So something else you talk about really openly in your comedy is about having endometriosis, which is something that a lot of people don't fully understand and in some cases don't talk about at all. And when you put something that's that personal into your set, are you thinking about that as vulnerability or education or as just good material or maybe all of the above?
There's an education part to it. I like to educate, and I think I've always liked that in my comedy. Teaching something new or making people think differently about something, even if it's like a dick joke or a dirty joke, it's still something to get them to think differently. So at the endo bits, it has been something that's been so detrimental to my life and to my sex life as well. And a lot of women who do suffer from it, we have a lot of trouble with sex. So I think it's important to talk about it. And then it's important to also highlight how it's not cared about, how it's not studied, how it's not something that's important. And it should be, especially like if you have a partner who has endo, it can be like a huge dividing factor in your relationship. And that's not discussed enough.
So there is an educational component to the work that you do, and you are hoping that people take away something deeper. They don't always. Sometimes they just come in and get a laugh, but other times they might learn about something like endometriosis that they just didn't even know existed or weren't really aware of before.
Or there might be women in the audience who haven't had someone talk about it before. It's good to like make fun of it, but at least like somebody is talking about it. And it's like, oh, she has endo like I do.
Yeah. And so that's, I think, really important, something that we can get out of this. But in terms of thinking about sex jokes and how they work, they have the potential to open up conversations, to normalize things that people otherwise might have a difficult time talking about. But at the same time, there are some sex jokes, when they're told carelessly, that can actually reinforce shame and stigma. And I'm thinking here about like the perpetual herpes jokes and other STI jokes, which people will often laugh at, but they just make like the STI stigma even worse.
I think there is a shift. I think people kind of, well, they did. And then you kind of now have the resurgence of humor that was popular in, the 90s.
Yep.
Because we've regressed, unfortunately. Amy Schumer did it when she talked about having HPV. Right? Like that was pretty big and bold.
Yeah.
And Adam Conover in Adam Ruins Everything covered that in a humorous way of like, herpes is really not a big deal. And I think it is stupid that it's still considered such like a, oh my God, and like such a punchline to something that is like, people have it and they're so scared of it. There are people I know who have it, who have expressed the fear of dating and how it's affected them. And I dated a person who I remember them talking about it and in such a horrific way where I was like, you really like believe that? Like you believe like this person is tainted now? Like that's so regressive and so offensive. So for the most part, if there's a comic that does that, either they grow out of it, and a lot of them do grow out of it, or, you can just choose not to listen to them.
I feel like it's one of those things where some comics have it worked out. Like they know how to not go too far down this direction of like telling jokes that end up just creating more shame and stigma around sex, but it is this tightrope where you're trying to make the topic accessible and you're trying to be funny. And sometimes those things are at odds with one another. And some people just kind of go for the low hanging fruit because maybe they've heard other people do it before and it got a laugh. But you also need to think about like, what are the broader implications, social messages of what it is that we're saying in these contexts. And like I said, I think comedy can be a great way to normalize conversations, open them up. But at the same time, depending on, how much care and effort is put into it, sometimes it does reinforce that shame and stigma.
Yeah. I try really hard not to kink shame in any bits that I do. Sometimes stuff is just funny.
You only kink shame yourself for your Bridgerton fantasies.
Oh, man. Not even Bridgerton. Earlier, man. 30 years earlier. That's what I did. Everyone's like, oh, you must love that. I'm like, yeah, that's hot, but they're not wearing wigs. I don't care.
It doesn't look old enough.
Yeah. Their legs are fully covered. I don't want it. I don't like it. I don't want it. Oh, no, I did. Actually, I watched Austin Land the other day. Have you watched that?
Mm-mm.
It's such a silly rom-com from the early 2012 era. It's like a real-life Bridgerton. And, then she realizes, oh, the fantasy's not real. But I was like, oh, this is good. This is hitting whatever because Bridgerton hadn't come out yet. But now it's out, baby, and I'm ready.
So you've been doing stand-up for about a decade, right?
No, almost 20 years.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you've been at this a lot longer than I thought. All right.
Yeah, I'm at 18 years.
So in that case, this question's more relevant than I thought it was, which is what trends or changes have you noticed over time in terms of how audiences are around sexual topics? Like, I'm asking this because I feel like our culture has become more sex negative in a lot of ways in the last few years. Like, for example, there's this growing backlash against sex scenes in TV shows and in movies, with a lot of people on social media questioning, like, are those really necessary? And, not even wanting them to be there. And, I've also seen some cultural commentary criticism of comics, and in particular female comics, saying, do they really need to be talking about sex all the time? And so, I just wonder, have you noticed a change in audiences or on social media just in terms of how people feel about sex and comedy?
Well, the women talking about sex thing has never changed. Mm-hmm. Since I've been doing it for 20 years, it's always been like, why do women always talk about sex? Because honestly, we're the ones it's happening to, in a way, right? It's our experience. We're the ones on the receiving end, if we want to say that. So why wouldn't we have an opinion about this? And I think that, at least for myself, I always wanted to talk about what it's like to date in a bigger body. What's it like to date this kind of, what are you into? I always thought that was far more interesting and more revealing than talking about Dunkin' Donuts or talking about, oh, this thing happened on the train, or like, making fun of a homeless person, which everyone does. I had one joke when I first started and then quickly was like, this is very dumb. Mm-hmm. So everybody learns, everyone makes mistakes. But the stigma of women talking about sex never changes. And I think maybe men don't like it because we're revealed so much. Mm-hmm. We are like revealing more about them than it is about us. And they don't like, women saying they're not the best, or that that it wasn't the best they ever had. And like, I can understand that. I think we are becoming more conservative as a culture, and it is unfortunate. To me, it just is always so strange because right now you've got all this like more female stuff happening. And then the studios will see it and be like, well, that was weird. Let's make another Landman, and just completely ignore that women are hungry for our sexual experiences and for things that we want and desire and longing. And I think just as you're kind of getting this, patriarchy coming back with a vengeance, you're just silencing all voices that aren't white male.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah. And people just don't like women talking in general, right? If any woman dares to be funnier than a man, how dare she?
But I think you're so right that the work that female comics do is often seen by men as threatening to their sense of masculinity in some way. And I think that does underlie a lot of the backlash that we've seen a lot of female comics receive over the years. And, female comics also are disproportionately subject to scrutiny about their weight, their appearance, and so forth. And so I have to imagine, not an easy space to be in, because there are a lot of pressures on you in that world, but also there are a lot of detractors, and people who, especially in the social media era, they will come at you when they don't think your joke is funny, or when it threatens them or changes the way that they see the world.
I agree. And it is like, for the men, their secrets are out, that they weren't as wonderful as they thought.
How dare you tell my secrets? I know.
You know what? Men talk more shit about the girl you fucked. She also might have. I've had sex where I've been like, that was not my best. That was poor form. I did not bring my A game. I've done it.
Yeah. And, the idea that you're quote unquote bad at sex is kind of like the ultimate threat that like a lot of men could experience because men place so much value on their penises and their sexual performance, and being told that you might not be able to satisfy or pleasure someone else can be seen as a very big threat to their sense of masculinity. Well, thank you so much for this amazing conversation, Jenny. I'm really looking forward to continuing it in the next episode and really diving into how comedy can help us to improve sexual communication. Can you tell my listeners where they can go to learn more about you and your work?
Yes. So you can go to jennyzagrino.com or Jenny Zagrino on Instagram. I'm also right now fundraising for my new comedy special called Afterbirth. It's about, starting over when life doesn't go how you planned. So you can donate to that. That's jennyzagrino//fund. And then I'm just all over the internet. So come hang out. And I'm going to be in your town at some point. So go look at my tour dates.
Great. Well, I'll be sure to include links to all of that in the show notes. And I hope you come to my town soon so I can see you in person.
Where's your town?
I'm in Indianapolis.
Oh. I'll try.
Maybe.
Thank you, Justin.
All right. I'll come see you somewhere else.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for listening. To keep up with new episodes of this podcast, visit my website, Sex and Psychology, at sexandpsychology.com, or subscribe on your favorite platform, where I hope you'll take a moment to rate and review the show. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, please consider becoming a Sex and Psychology Premium subscriber to enjoy ad-free listening for just $3.99 a month. You can also follow me on social media for daily sex research updates. I'm on Blue Sky and X at Justin Lehmiller and Instagram at Justin J. Lehmiller. Also, be sure to check out my book, Tell Me What You Want. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.